Awesome. Well, welcome everyone to our webinar, Compliance Made Easy, how to optimize risk management and compliance processes in Jira. And I'm more than happy to welcome Marion and Monika from SoftComply. They are real pros when it comes to those topics, and I'm really looking forward to what you're telling us. And I'm super excited about the apps you're going to present. But before we get there will be an introduction so that you know who's talking here. And we will also talk a bit about risk management, what it is, why it is important, what you should keep an eye on. And after that, we will hand over to SoftComply. So they will talk about information security, ISO 27001. And then there's the highlight, the app demo. I'm really excited, really. And afterwards, there will be a Q&A session. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them. We will collect them and, hope to have them answered to your fullest, so that you are happy. Before we start, there are some housekeeping rules. The webinar will be recorded. Usually, you should get the recording link within the next 2 days. So you can watch it again whenever you want to. And just so you know, your microphones and cameras will be switched off. If you have to sneeze or whatever, go ahead. We were talking about it before. If you have questions, please ask them. But if you do so, it would be awesome if you could do it in the question tab. This way, it's way easier for us to handle them. And we will collect them, as said before, but sometimes when we think they suit to the moment, we will try to answer them straight away so that you don't have to wait till the end. All right, let's get it started. Some of you might have realized that Jan isn't there today. Unfortunately, he is sick, but Oliver was so kind to jump in. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, my name is Oliver. I'm filling in for Jan Szczepański today, who unfortunately was sick and couldn't come. I feel quite honored. I work at Polymetis Apps. We are also a marketplace partner and very much focused on security apps, not directly risk management, but we are really, really in the same kind of space. And this is a topic dear to my heart. I live close to the Baltic Sea, in a place called Laboe, which is close to Kiel in the north of Germany. I'm a technical writer by trade, but basically you can trust me on this. It's the same as software development. And in my sparse free time, I'm a huge fan of analog photography, where I do, everything myself, apart from actually making the film, but the development and enlargement and everything. It's a fun hobby, and it's so devoid of computers that it's a nice counterbalance to my day-to-day job.
Awesome. Thank you. Let's keep going. Marion, it's your turn.
All right, thanks. Well, I'm an Estonian who is now living in Munich in Germany. And before I moved to Germany, I lived in Dublin, and my hugest hobby is sailing. So I can't do that here much. So I've gone to hiking now instead. The mountains are absolutely amazing in this area. My background is in safety critical software engineering, and I worked a long time in academia and saw the kind of the regulations from the other side of how we try to make things safe and why there are standards. And I was also co-editor of several standards. And I stepped out of it to actually give companies something that is sort of helpful and hands-on. And that's where we started with SoftComply. And our kind of aim with SoftComply is really to bring compliance, quality, and risk management into software development and integrate it completely with Atlassian toolset, so that teams would have less silos in it. That's me.
Thank you.
Yeah, hi from me as well. I'm Monika. I'm also Estonian, but actually living in Estonia, which is rare. No, I'm joking, but I'm managing growth in SoftComply. And why I made this comparison, like nudging a teenager for more accountability, is really testing which messages do work with teenagers feels the same way that I'm doing at work these days. And the same as Oliver, I love like this restoring Windows is my most recent hobbies these days, because it gives you the space and time to think, and you're doing something that is useful. And at the same time, you can think about your work, your whatever it's needed really, and something beautiful comes out of it. So I'm a huge fan of old houses and restoring them. Yeah,
the transformation. Yeah,
exactly.
Awesome, thank you. So now that you know who's hosting the event, let's talk a bit more about the companies, starting with Jurocus. Jurocus is an Atlassian Platinum solution partner with a specialization in cloud and ITSM. We were founded 2019 in Riesenbeck, a huge city. Joking. And we are a cloud-first solution partner. Means we were focusing on cloud right from the beginning. Right now, we have more than 50 employees and more than 30 partners with offices in Hamburg, Düsseldorf, and Kulmbach here in Germany. Now a bit about SoftComply.
Right, thanks. So we started in 2016 in Estonia, and our focus was and still is on the regulated industry. So the goal is to help automate compliance, quality, and risk management on Atlassian toolset. And we are cloud-first marketplace partner. So we also started with cloud. We also then went into on-prem, and then 4 years or 3 years back, we went back to cloud. So now we are cloud-first, as we were when we started. And we are a gold marketplace partner, and we have over 10 apps. So what we tried to do a lot was to cover compliance gaps that Atlassian has, especially on Atlassian Cloud, with different smaller apps, and provide full solutions for quality management and risk management side. So we believe that there are so many apps at the moment that we wanted to build a solution that would cover the majority's need, for example, in risk management or in quality management. So that's us.
Great. So Oliver, I think this is where your part starts.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. This is the exciting part. The slides were prepared by Jan, who is typically the one who's giving this talk, and he's much more knowledgeable than I am. So bear with me on this. Just as an introduction to risk management, the first question you might ask yourself, why even bother? Like, why do I need to do this? And there's 3 major kinds of reasons you would like to do that. I'd like to go through them one by one.
Okay. So.
All right. So the very first reason is, well, it's your own self-interest. You want to prevent losses. You want to prevent damages. You want to prevent that bad situation happening. And the best way to do that is actually finding potential risk, assessing them, see, okay, what could go wrong? How could things go wrong? What can we do to prevent things going wrong? And this is at a point like this could just be basic safety stuff. In a car, you take a seatbelt. That's one way of managing the risk of harm. With an organization, it's similar, right? Your laptops have passwords. You have you hopefully have good passwords too. You hopefully have a password manager. You use 2-factor authentication. Those things are all ways to prevent anything bad happening. And anything bad happening, of course, has a cost for you. It might be a lot of damage. It can, be a security breach. It can make your company unable to function, and you really want to avoid all of that. So that's the most basic reason to actually look at risks and try to manage them. The next reason is you need to comply with some legal and regulatory requirements, something that I personally always find very hard to do, and I'm glad that there's software out there to help me. But depending on what kind of industry you're working in, if it's a heavily regulated industry, you get bombarded with questions about, hey, do you do GDPR? Do you do CCPA? Have you heard of HIPAA? Hey, can you do FedRAMP? There's a lot of legal and regulatory frameworks around, and they do exist for a reason. If you step on an airplane, you know you're on board of one of the most regulated pieces of transportation around, and that's for a good reason, because flying can be scary. So being in compliance with all of these requirements also means you're doing a good job, you're taking all of the precautions that are required. And actually, what I've found over the years is, despite all of these things being extremely daunting tasks, in any situation where we underwent one of these regulatory or legal assessment, we found, oh, that's a lot of good thinking that has went into these requirements. It's really a good idea that we uphold them. So it's another reason you want to be prepared for that, and maybe you want to work in a regulated industry, or you have to. So that's a must, really. And finally, it also says something about you towards your customers. It helps giving an aura of trust and credibility. If you can show that you actually do know the risks of your organization, the risk you are exposed to, and how to mitigate, how to prepare for these. If you do take potential threats seriously, that also tells your customer, hey, these people are doing all that they can to prevent any loss and damages. And especially if you're a software or hardware vendor, if you have actual customers who are using your products, they're also really interested in those products not containing any risks. So being able to have this trust signal and credibility is really, really important. Here in Germany, we have something like a TÜV Siegel, the Atlassian Marketplace, we have the Cloud Fortified badge. These things are also important and give you, the opportunity to show to your customer you're taking things seriously. All right, now, what kind of risks are we looking at today? And this is by no means an exhaustive list. I have to preface this, but these are things that, especially in my line of work, we really look at a lot. The first one that I'd like to mention is cybersecurity risk. This is basically hacking, malware, phishing, ransomware, really everything around that, distributed denial of service attacks, anything where some bad actor somewhere decides they want to use some kind of IT system or as a way to compromise your IT systems and use them against you or against your customers. So basically, that's the hacker you're afraid of. Now, I would like to add that it's not always a super smart hacker like in Mr. Robot. In many cases, and this is a technology risk, what these hackers use to gain access to your system is old infrastructure, it's old systems, it's old servers. Everybody who's been in software development knows bugs do happen. You can't write perfect code all the time. And you'll just see that some things might go wrong. And we've seen this today, with Atlassian coming out with another bunch of CVEs saying, oh, right, you definitely need to update your on-prem software because these are vulnerabilities inside systems. Now, what happens if you don't update? You're basically at risk here. Well, it could be a reason that you do not update. Well, it could be some kind of a human error, because we all do make errors, right? We forget something, we push something off. Sometimes we are a bit careless. Sometimes we are not aware of what's going on. And finding ways to avoid us humans doing something wrong by having checklists or automated systems to ensure that we're doing the right thing at the right time. That's really important. There are other risks, and this is the bottom row here. Physical risks that could be there could be a fire, there could be a flood, there could be an earthquake. Where I live, there was actually a flooding just a couple of months ago, which is a definitely huge risk, and it could have been a risk to our infrastructure had it been at the place I'm living in. It's not, fortunately. But looking at these kind of risks, like in the end, we do have infrastructure somewhere. So this is something you need to assess and look at. There's always legal and compliance risks. Most likely, especially compliance risks and legal risks, they arise from not being compliant with legal requirements, like being loose with data privacy standards is one of the biggest risks I typically see around in our industry. But there are, of course, others. And again, if you're in heavily regulated industries, you really want to make sure to cross your I's and dot your T's, other way around. And finally, there's also third-party risk and any risk associated with working with someone else. We are all working with someone else in an interconnected world. So no company is an island. You always have to rely on somebody else. But when you do, you have to make sure that you vet these companies as well. And this comes back to why would you want to do risk management? You want to, be credible, and in the same way that you want to be credible, you want to vet your partners and service providers and suppliers for also being credible. So hey, they're doing good risk management. And yeah, that's why I would definitely recommend you spend a lot of time doing risk management. There's only so much you can do with security software, and every security risk that you can avoid by doing proper risk management upfront is a reason to celebrate. And yeah, with that, I would like to hand it over to SoftComply.
Thank you, Oliver. All right. Yeah. Marion, I think you will go first.
Yep. I will start. I will try to share my presentation first. And please let me know if you can see the right thing.
Yes, looks good.
Okay. All right, great. So thank you, Oliver, for doing a lot of my job for me, because I actually also prepared a lot of risk management stuff. So I'm just going to skip over those that you already covered. But just wanted to maybe touch upon a few things still. So risk-based approach. Not only do we need to do risk management for compliance, that actually is where we started in SoftComply, but also understanding why is a risk-based approach to managing companies really important, and what are the benefits in it. So an organization-wide risk approach. And then I quickly go over what is a risk management process, how could you even manage risks, and then I'm going to touch upon information security risk management for 27001 and our solution before we jump into the live demo that Monika will carry out. So basically, risk-based approach is an approach where risk is in the center, and the idea is to really focus on the threat landscape for the whole company, the business objectives, and the environment that the company operates in. So what do you need for that? Like, if you want to have organization-wide risk approach, you need to have, of course, processes and policies in place to so that everybody knows what we're talking about, or how this risk-based approach can be implemented and is implemented in the organization. You need to train people for that risk management, and of course, you need proper risk reporting. But maybe just to go over the benefits of having this type of approach to organization and the management in the first place. So first of all, of course, we live in an uncertain world and everything is constantly changing. So having risk-based approach will help us adapt easily to this changing environment and conditions. And if we have a consistent and comprehensive approach, we become much more resilient to such changes. Secondly, breaking silos. So this is very near and dear to SoftComply's heart. I mentioned earlier that we are kind of advocating this breaking the silo mentality, because we very often see that quality and compliance and risk management is always like an afterthought. So there is a product development going on, some like innovative software people are doing something really, really cool. And then there is this annoying compliance and like, oh, come on, we also need to take care of that. And it's always left kind of as an afterthought, like, okay, fine, we'll do some kind of checklist or fill some templates, fine. But it shouldn't be, because this is where if you take the quality, compliance, and risks with you early on, you actually are much faster able to respond to different situations, to assess risk, to define your KPIs, to monitor and resolve these issues early on. And if you do it with a functional teams, then you can leverage the knowledge between teams, and therefore your products will be better. You'll have more efficiency, and you have better control of your costs as well. So this kind of group understanding and assessing of risks across the organization is really, really important. And of course, senior management. In some cases, you don't have a buy-in from senior management, but if you have a cross-organization risk awareness where senior management is also involved, they are more likely to see how beneficial it is and how much each team's recommendation to assessing risks and managing risks will get you closer to achieving business objectives. So they will have the buy-in also from the senior management. And of course, with this risk approach, it is apparent when a key objective is being threatened. You can put the mitigation in place early on and before the impact to your organization is actually there. So many real benefits to having a risk-based approach. So just to very briefly cover, there are different levels of risks where they are owned and managed. You have different departments in an organization, legal, compliance, cybersecurity, IT, that have their own risks. You have product risks, so specific type of product that is being developed has, like for example, if we take regulated industries like that Oliver said, airplanes have their safety risks, medical devices have their safety risks, and they need to comply with, and they need to comply with them before they can put that product on the market. And here risks are all about safety. And of course you have project risks. Every project has to be analyzed, or budget, schedule, and resources, of course. It's the classical project management. I won't touch these because that's what Oliver already went and explained to everyone, the different types of risks that we have and how to deal with these. So this is just a kind of an intro of what risks are. But what can you do with risks? So you have 4 phases of risk management, really. And in some, particularly in the regulated domain, these risk management processes are extremely detailed. But in general, it all comes down to 4 things. First, you identify the risks. What are the risks that may occur? Then you need to do risk assessment. And in here, the first step is actually to understand when is a risk acceptable and when is it not. Because there are always risks around us, but sometimes some risks are not worth living with because they are too big of threat to something or somebody. So we need to assess these risks, and normally you assess these risks by providing and thinking of the values for likelihood of when something can happen and the impact of that risk. And you either calculate a risk score or risk class, depending on the type of risks that you are assessing. When the risk is on unacceptable level, when it's too high, you need to manage it somehow. You need to control it, mitigate it, to bring it down to acceptable level. And that is where you mitigate risks. And normally in some areas, you also need to verify that this risk treatment or risk control is actually working, and that no new risks have come to life because of these verifications that have been put in place. And of course, the continuous monitoring of risks is something that you need to do all the time, and reporting. So risk, in a very brief, very classical sense, is a measure of combination of the probability of something bad happening and the impact to either the business, the safety of the user, or the project budget, whatever is the particular risk that you are working on. So our customers, always, the small ones who are starting with risk assessment, especially in the regulated domain, sometimes ask, like, where do we start? Like, how do you even come to list risks? Like, do you have a cheat sheet, like a ready-made list that we can tackle? And there are those checklists, and in the regulated domains, these are actually in the annexes of the international standards. So you can always start from there. Another really good source is, like we mentioned before, is this cross-team or cross-organization brainstorming events, so that every team can analyze the different risks, how they impact the other teams, and this type of brainstorming is really a good place to start. Of course, there are a lot of feedbacks from different similar projects that have happened, project managers who know their stuff and already have their own list of risks ready to go. And then there are products that are already on the market in the regulated domains, and these products there are databases for similar products, and you can check what risks they have listed. So that's always a good place to start. But then a few words about our solution. So as we mentioned before, we started with product risk management, where in the regulated domains we looked at hazard analysis and FMEA. That was our kind of the first, like the basis where we came from, the origin of our founders, and we there. After that, we started to grow out of it. We added project risks, of course, project risk management, our tool set. And now we have organizational risks that you can continuously manage with our solution. And the last thing we added was actually information security risks, and particularly to help companies comply with 27001. Our risk solution is covering risk register in Jira. So everyday work in Jira with our Risk Manager Plus. The reporting to Confluence, because that is really important for companies who want to manage the documentation in Confluence, and therefore you can add macros for risk management. And for the really regulated domains and industries, we have validation. So validation is something that is particularly important for regulated industries to validate and make sure that their software tools are working as expected, and they are to give auditors these test reports, periodic test reports. And on cloud, you cannot really do it any other way than automated testing. So we have done that for our customers who can run these tests once a week and get all the reports necessary. But now a few words about 27001. So in a very kind of very abstract way of looking at 27001 is that it looks at two things, or requires two things. You need to have a information security management system. So you need to have the description of processes and procedures in place, but you also need to have the information security risk management. And this is a continuous threat assessment that you can do through identifying information security risks and implementing the associated controls for each of them. And these are the main two kind of areas of requirements. Of course, there is a detailed list of requirements, I think always in standards. And what we wanted to provide our customers and our users and all Atlassian or Jira users was to provide this heart of the 27001 requirement, the risk management tool set. So very often when somebody says, do you have tools for 27001, it is just merely a template or a checklist, if you will. And it lists the 27001 controls, and based on that, then you can add the assets and the related threats, and based on that, you create your statement of applicability that you give your auditors. But the real core of it is the risk management, and to have that linked to Jira's assets, you can work with our tool that helps you keep an eye and traceability between your assets, the controls from 27001, and the threats. So what we have is that we provide you a risk model. We provide you a risk table for asset-based to information security risk management, and dedicated libraries where you can populate the data about your assets, and already a ready-made library for the 27001 controls. You can, from our tool, generate automatically the statement of applicability for the auditors, but it also has a traceability report that you can work with every day to see how are assets covered with risks with controls, and the work that you have yet to do. But the core of risk management is, of course, setting up the risk model. So the first thing is, like I said at the start of the presentation, you need to understand when a risk is acceptable and when are they unacceptable, when you need to put mitigations in place. And in our risk management tools, you can then select the different models that you want to use. The risk table, this is for the majority of companies who come to risk management from Excel. So we wanted to create a table that looks like Excel, but it's actually in Jira. And it is the only multi-sheeted table view that you have in Jira at the moment. And this is because you can do different types of risks, or manage and assess different types of risks in one single Jira project. And of course, finally, risk reporting. So this is really important for all the management and your team leads to understand where we are today. And with that, I give over to Monika for a quick look into the information security risk management with our Risk Manager Plus tool.
Yeah, thank you. Let me navigate to the right page, and let's get started with the practicalities. So this is Atlassian Marketplace, of course. So these are our apps. If you look into this, you will see that each and every one of these are very much tuned into regulated industries to help them to be compliant on Atlassian Confluence and Jira. Today, we will be looking at the risk management, of course, and we have a couple of apps there, even 3 different levels of apps. But the SoftComply Risk Manager Plus and Information Security Risk Manager are dedicated for information security risk management specifically. And we will be looking at these today. If you are interested in information security only, that is the app for you. If you are considering that, yes, there are actually other domains where you need to assess risks as well, as Oliver and Marion were covering today, then Risk Manager Plus will be coming with more features. So let's get started. Once you've started the trial of the app and you know that, I'm sorry, am I sharing only this tab? I might be doing something differently. Let me start sharing a screen instead. So, window. Let me start just sharing entire screen. Why not? Let's go here. I hope everything is working now. Do you see my Risk Manager Plus nice, colorful matrix there?
Oh,
exactly. Very good then. So what you will be seeing once you start the trial, it will be under your apps. You navigate to Risk Manager Plus. And the first thing I recommend for anybody who is starting with info security risk management is to navigate to the risk dashboard. You asked for checklists. We have the checklist. We have listened to you. We have had lots of customer interactions and conversations with them, and this is really something that somebody who is starting with ISO 27001 could be benefiting from. So this is a full checklist to be compliant to each and every clause of the standard, and you can use it as your work dashboard. You can see here every clause is broken into actions that you need to do to actually be compliant to the clause. You can check mark these once you've completed a couple of the actions. You have some progress bars showing here, and you can, because many actions actually need to be, you need to also show what is the source, what is my evidence that I've done it. So you can use this plus sign to connect different web pages, to connect to your Confluence pages, where you keep the evidence, basically, where you keep your procedure descriptions, your training records, etc. So this could be added here, building your basically the audit readiness checklist. Starting with information security risk management in Jira, very easy. You need to just have a project there and connect it to the InfoSec. I will show you how to do this later. But once you start growing this, once you start working with your risks in this domain, you will be assured that the traceability between your controls, between your assets, between the risks that are associated with your assets are always traced here on the risk management dashboard as well. So you can see the coverage in percentage, each specific item being specified here as well. Well, of course, if you have listed all your assets, you will be seeing the full risk coverage as well, if all my assets are covered with risks, and if all the risks are covered with controls and so forth. So this is the dashboard. This is something you want to look before you start implementing the work. But the rest of the work starts here as well. This is our central panel where the risk manager sets everything in place before the actual job starts. So let's see another element. We are using object registers, which is a built-in feature for our Risk Manager Plus and Info Security Risk Manager app. Both of them use these object registers. If you're a premium Jira user, Service Desk user, Jira Service Management premium user, then you have the availability to use Jira assets as well. So you can continue using these. This object register is something we wanted to provide for a smaller user that wants to leverage using this kind of databases in the background, where you can later on just simply select and choose rather than typing in, creating the activity that is prone to human error as well. What we've done for you, we actually built the full controls list based on the text of the standard of ISO 27001. So you can see each control is captured here in this pretty long checklist. And what you can start doing now as a risk manager is that up to here, up to the control group, you can see it has an ID, it has a section of the standard where it comes from. You have the control overall explanation and a bit further description here. It belongs to a control group as well. Now you need to do the applicability selection. Is this control applicable for your organization or not? Or it's not applicable. So you can simply choose yes, no, not applicable. Once it's applicable, you define what is the source of control. There's also a checklist provided for you, and if the control is implemented or not. And all the linked issues that you will start linking it later on using the risk manager will be shown here as well. So you will be always seeing it in a vice versa direction as well. This control is connected, linked to as many risks as you can see here. And you go and fill this table fully, of course, because this will lead to a statement of applicability. Going back here, on top of here, just a quick button, generate statement of applicability. And this comes from the filled-in object register that you have gone through one by one, marking if your control is applicable or not. And it will lead to having a statement of applicability with a click of a button. You have all the controls, descriptions, control groups, and as you have defined if they are applicable or not. So these are the background tools. A bit of more background tools. Marion was stating that there are different levels of risk models available. Yes, these different risks might need a different criteria how you assess this risk. So you might have just this likelihood and the impact, or you might have a third element that you need to consider. For example, many companies or many users of ours are using detectability, especially useful when you're assessing software product risks, or how easy it is to detect that there might be an issue. So recognizing that, we have created quite flexible risk models. You can see there are some templates coming already with when you start the trial, but you can create a fully customized risk model as well. Just quickly showing you the options there. You know, 2-dimensional risk matrix, 3-dimensional risk matrix, and a score-based. There are 2 options for 3-dimensional, which is one is combining the numbers together, one is providing you a lot more, but the score-based risk model is also very often used as a you can even build checklists like this. If it's yes or no, and what are the scores, and then the model calculates the scores together. And you can then start using these risk models. Each of these levels, you can rename them, you can build them bigger. For example, here is 4x4, 4 different levels inside. Of course, you can build it bigger as your organization needs, or make it smaller. It depends on your needs, really. and you can rename them. Out of the box is probability, severity. If you call them likelihood and impact, there's no problem. You can rename them easily. And the rest of the elements as well are configured in the background, risk tables, object registers. You can actually use these for much more than just controls. We have pre-built a asset list for you as well based on ISO recommendations. But this needs to be, of course, filled according to your company assets. It's just giving you the guidance of you need to consider all your databases, all your computers, brand, developer licenses, and machines. So this all needs to be built for you. But later on, once you have built your assets, your controls, even we are keeping, for example, a vendor list here, or the separate vulnerabilities if they are defined already. And once you connect these to a project, so this is now, let's call it my central risk project. I have enabled both my specific risk models here, my specific risk table here. I have my objects linked here. This is all the background work. But once the user comes here and starts using the risk table, you might feel it's kind of looking quite similar to your Excel that many of us are used to. You can go right inside every cell, start typing. The typing that you have done is immediately stored. You can work with a table in a simple table format. The progress bar is coming with our app. It's showing you how you have assessed your risk in different steps on the way. Very often you are required to do your inherent or initial risk assessment. That is part of the risk identification and assessment. And then after you have implemented your controls, after you have checked their efficiency, you can do a current risk assessment. What is my status now with each of these risks? So this is very often the practice, how the risk managers are working. Here I'm using, let's start creating a new line just to demonstrate how to create a new risk to the table. Let's have it called new today. So once I've included just a summary, and this is the summary field of Jira, this is filled in, and you can see a new line opened up here. What I can do now is I can quickly select between my assets that I have defined in my organization. Let's say I am working with computers today. I can assign a risk owner, very often needs to be controlled by one person really. And I can describe further what is the cause of threat or vulnerability that is under question here. So this is the identification part. Again, this can be customized as per your company process. You can build more columns here. You can add more assessment criteria as needed or identification criteria. The assessment comes into play now. So we have defined the risk. We know what it contains. And now we know also how to assess the initial likelihood and the initial consequences. So let's say it's likely risk to materialize and the consequences are major. So we are leading into a risk level that is high. This is based on the model that we have defined before. And now I can continue. I can start mitigating the risk. So again, something we need to do to put the controls in place. Okay, I'm just selecting a control right now, but of course there's a lot more thought going into this. But just showcasing how easy it is. Once you've defined all your controls, you can really easily select it from the drop-down. And later on, when you're looking at this and want to see further details, just click on it. You will see everything that is added about this specific object in the background. And once we've done that, we are, of course, monitoring if the control is implemented, how the control is implemented. And this is where the Jira really showcases its full efficiency. So using Excel, you need to chase your team. You need to chase the risk owners, asking them via emails just before the meeting. Where are you with your tasks? Well, using Jira, it's actually quite easy. You just, if you know exactly what is the issue key, you just start typing here. If you can ask or see from other projects that which are the tasks made you understand where exactly in their status is your test of controls efficiency. So you can see here some things in the backlog still, a couple of items added here, all in backlog. I need to work with my team. I need to see where they are. But actually, every item has a due date, so I don't need to worry too much about this. I'm pretty sure my team will not pick them up once the due date is closing up. Anyway, you will be notified. You will have a constant overview or continuous overview where the tasks are. You can build more. Again, here you can build more of fields or columns, as we call them, being an having an Excel background myself. So you can build here who is the owner of each task as well. You can bring this field into the risk table as well. So once the job is done, I can assess my risk level again. And I'm happy to say the consequence is insignificant and the risk score is low. I'm joking here, but just to demo the functionality of how the risk table works. You might notice here there are some more tabs. But before I jump into this, couple of features for usability. You can filter the entire table based on your settings. You can pin columns, which is really useful if you have a long table to work with, having the same feeling that you might recognize as freeze panes, because sometimes it's really important not to lose the beginning of the table once you're working with current risk class evaluation. So this is the option there. You can also hide some columns if you want to do some focused work on some specific items only. And what's more, you can actually apply quick filters as well. You can redesign them as well. This is maybe something you want to explore during a one-on-one demo later on, but you can design your own quick filters as well, or your organization quick filters, so everybody can navigate to their department risks, high risks only, let's say. So reporting, separate tabs. As Marion said, you can actually do with Risk Manager Plus, you can do all sorts of risks. So you can tap into your organizational risks, have them addressed in a similar way. You might use a different risk model to do that. You can cover your information security management system risks, also in the same table. Very often our risk managers, they wish to have the entire overview of what I've heard is referred to as risk universe, which is a really poetic and nice word about this. But as we hear it so often, you can even build your supplier tech security, like third-party vendors, what Oliver said, really important to keep an eye on their security levels as well. So you can do this vendor assessment here. And in here, by the way, I'm using this score-based risk model where you can just simply state it's yes or no, or build it your own, and maybe the no gets a more dramatic numeric value than the yes. So you can build this kind of risk models, and then the automation is done for you. So you don't need to think too much. It's speeding up the work, basically. So you can build these multi-sheeted risk tables. But what is the third element? As Marion said, you need the reporting. Because every once in a while, your management team wishes to see what is the status right now. You wish to come together with your other department heads and to discuss have we discovered anything else? Do we need to add something to the table? Do this bit of brainstorming, review all the existing risks where they are. Has something changed outside or inside, internally? So this is a regular work, usually, that comes into play. And for reporting, of course, you can export it outside externally to CSV and PDF, the entire table or the entire model. Also, the risk models are present in the project view. So you can see each of the risk model that is attached or enabled for this project and navigate through them quickly. But even better is to use the Jira dashboards. So dashboards, we have a couple of gadgets there. You can use either risk matrix or risk table gadgets to build reporting from your different projects or your different sheets, to have them side by side. So you can bring here maybe 2 matrices side by side, or having 3 like I have at the moment, just to keep an eye on specific projects, specific risks. And of course, if you want to just see the high or critical risks only, then you can apply a JQL filter, and this is showing just the relevant risks. And you can toggle here if it's initial or current risk assessment. This is based on your specific project setup. And this just to mention that these reports are available for Confluence as well, of course. So you can easily use our free extension app for Confluence reporting. This is just working with our risk management apps, but all of them. So you can have it installed in your Confluence and start using the macros to bring your reports straight to Confluence, then write a nice report on top of it, then have it printed, have it signed, have it approved electronically. There's also an option for that, and keep them in the Confluence repository. And yeah, I think I've covered pretty much the basics.